We begin the day with a word or two about ourselves. Today is World Press Freedom Day. Now, this is not a holiday anywhere. In fact, when you look at the situation for journalists around the world, it is sobering at best. Fake news, politicians using the media as a punching bag, high-tech surveillance used against our sources. Well, this is our reality. Nowhere has it become so grim so quickly than in Turkey. Amnesty International reminded us today, since last summer's failed coup, 120 journalists have been jailed, 156 media outlets shut down, and 2,500 reporters have lost their jobs. Well, late last year, our colleagues at Conflict Zone flew to Ankara to interview a member of the Turkish cabinet. Now, after the interview, DW came face-to-face with the strong-arm government's crackdown on dissent in the media. Here's what Conflict Zone's host, Michelle Friedman, told me.
They asked us not to broadcast the interview, and we said, never ever. We are a free press in Germany. We have free press, and the Deutsche Welle is certainly not dependent on what a Turkish minister is saying or not.
Investigative journalists, they've also been targeted. The reporters at correctif.org won awards for their story, which revealed Russia's connection to the downing of flight MH17 over Ukraine. Now, their enemies also came barging through the door.
So we asked them to leave the office, to shut down the camera. All that was on camera. They did not do so first, and finally we were able to push them out of the office a little bit.
You've lied about MH17. You've lied about Donbass, Ukraine, so I want to know why you've
let's have a check.
told so many lies.
Do you mind turning off the camera?
We called the police. When the police came, they ran away.
It's the German police, so going to make a little move.
Information, facts, and enlightenment. That's the only thing we can do and what we have to do. And I still have this optimistic belief that when you do your work properly, when you explain what you do, when you know, do it thoroughly, that then in the end you are able to persuade people in what you're doing.
And in Saudi Arabia, a man named Raif Badawi remains behind bars and faces lashes as punishment for speaking his mind on a blog about Islam. Well, earlier this year, when the Saudi princess came to Berlin, I pressed her about Mr. Badawi's case and the lack of press freedom and human rights in her country. Am I hearing between the lines from you that there's reason to hope that even for, you know, the Badawi family, that there may be reason to hope that there will be a happy ending?
I think there is a lot of hope there, and I think there's going to be a very good happy ending, and a lot of other also issues in Saudi Arabia that are concerned. The human rights are going to be in progress, definitely.
Well, I know his wife will be happy to hear that. She's been on the show. I'm sure she'll be happy to get that message. Well, unfortunately, the Badawi family and the rest of us are still waiting for that happy ending to begin. And that is why we remain vigilant. And that vigilance is worthy of acknowledgement. Now, every year we here at DW, Deutsche Welle, recognize outstanding efforts to uphold the principles of an independent and free press. This year, DW is giving its Freedom of Speech Award to the men and women whose job it is to hold the U.S. president to account despite his attacks on their credibility. The White House Correspondents Association.
No, not you. Not you. Your organization's terrible.
They're very dishonest people. In fact, in covering my comments, the dishonest media did not explain that I called the fake news the enemy of the people, the fake news.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Where are you from?
BBC.
Okay. Here's another beauty.
You're shaking your head. I appreciate it, but understand this, that at some point, the facts are what they are. At some point, April, you're going to have to take no for an answer. Hold on. But April, hold on. I'm sorry. Please stop shaking your head again.
I want to find a friendly reporter.
Well, I'm joined now from Washington by a friendly reporter, a reporter who's a reporter's friend. He's a man who's at the center of all of this, the president of the White House Correspondents Association, Jeff Mason. Jeff, welcome back to the day, and congratulations are in order to you. I guess, though, this is probably an award that you wish you didn't have to win.
Well, we're certainly very honored that Deutsche Welle has chosen the Correspondents Association for this prestigious award. Yeah, you're right. We've had to fight some battles in the last several months that I never expected that we would have to fight, and I think that that's part of what you're recognizing with the award. So no, that's not something we were looking for, and we're also not looking for recognition. But we do appreciate the fact that the world is watching, and we're grateful for this opportunity.
The world was also watching the White House Press Association dinner that just took place, the dinner that took place without the U.S. president. What was the energy there like that evening, Jeff?
Well, the dinner the energy was terrific, honestly. I was sitting up on stage, so I wasn't out in the room, but I know that from the people who were, and we had over 2,600 guests there, that the vibe was very good. People were excited, I think, to be part of a dinner that was about the press and not about the presidency, and we made that point, that is what our dinner is all about, whether the president is present or not. It's about good journalism. It's about the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which protects the rights of a free press and the freedom of speech. And it's about our scholarship winners and award winners who we recognized that night as well.
And, you know, while you were toasting the future of the free press, Mr. Trump, he was in Pennsylvania roasting us. I want you to take a listen to what he was saying.
They are gathered together for the White House Correspondents' Dinner without the president. And I could not possibly be more thrilled than to be more than 100 miles away from Washington Swamp, because the Washington media is part of the problem. Their priorities are not my priorities, and they're not your priorities, believe me.
You know, Jeff, when you hear that and you consider what we heard the chief of staff of the White House say this past weekend, confirming that the White House has talked about changing libel laws in the U.S., I mean, how worried are you that one day the U.S. president will be able to sue you or to sue Reuters, who you work for simply unflattering reporting?
Well, it's hard to answer that. I don't know. I mean, I certainly take it seriously, and we take it seriously when Reince Priebus, the chief of staff, as you referenced, makes a comment like that on national television. But we'll have to see what they do, see how far they go on that. I think, in general, the values of the First Amendment protect the right to freedom of the press and freedom of speech, and that is something that we will fight hard for. And I hope that anyone in Congress who would be asked to make changes on that would denigrate or destroy or in any way alter those rights would think twice before doing so.
And, you know, Jeff, our profession has enough open-ended questions about its future to deal with as it is. And we've got the president trying to make it acceptable now to label us as fake news, as liars. You can add the chaos that's been created by social media. Facebook today saying it's going to hire 3,000 people to monitor and filter out material on its platform. I mean, do you think that forces have been set free that will never allow journalism to enjoy the trust and the respect that it once did?
Well, it's a good question, and it's hard to answer. I think that there is a trust deficit for journalists in this country and probably elsewhere. I think that reporters do have a responsibility to report about the truth and to report about facts. And we also have a responsibility to correct our mistakes when we make them, and everyone does. and that is an important piece of our job as well. But as I said at the Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night, though access at the White House under President Trump for journalists has actually been very good, it is irresponsible and dangerous to a healthy democracy and a healthy republic to try to undermine journalists. And that is, I think, effectively what he has tried to do with a lot of his rhetoric, and that is something that we at the Correspondents Association absolutely reject.
What about the role of the White House press secretary, Sean Spicer? I know on this side of the Atlantic, the fallout from his comparison of Hitler with Bashar al-Assad, that fallout continues. Some people even say his days are numbered as press secretary. What are you hearing, or do you dare venture a guess?
Yeah, that's not something I'm going to weigh in on. We work pretty closely with Sean as our main interlocutor for the Correspondents Association in our role of negotiating for the press corps. So I'll let any news on that be released from his side and not mine.
Okay, that's a great answer. I want to ask you, before we let you go, any hint of what you will say next month? We understand that you're going to come to Germany to accept the Freedom of Speech Award at our Global Media Forum. What will you say?
Well, it's a good question. I'm really looking forward to coming, and as I said at the top of the interview, I'm very honored, and the association is very honored that you have chosen us. I haven't put words to paper yet for what I'll be saying, but no doubt there will be some reprisal of the remarks that I did at the Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night in talking about the importance of freedom of the press is protected by the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution for reporters here in the U.S. and probably apply those principles and discuss how that affects the rest of the world.
All right, well, we will look forward to seeing you on this side of the Atlantic next month, Jeff. Jeff Mason, president of the White House Press Association. Congratulations again to you and your colleagues. Jeff, keep up the good fight. We'll see you soon. Well, at the White House, reporters are fighting for the truth, as we just heard. In Somalia, reporters often fight for their lives. The insurgency by the Islamist group al-Shabaab has made it a dangerous place to work. We called up with one reporter who has lost several colleagues and lives with the fear that he could be next.
Abdi Fattah Hersi is a 25-year-old journalist for Radio Shabelle in Mogadishu. He works hard as a local reporter. Somalia has been embroiled in conflict and civil war for more than 25 years. But listeners still want to hear ordinary news too. Abdi gives a weather report for the Somali capital. Journalists have often paid with their lives for reporting on the violence in their country. Rival clans waging war, skyrocketing corruption, or the plight of Somalis in exile. This is a report about violent Somali demonstrations in Nairobi. Abdi has escaped death by living and working in secret. Many other reporters have not been as lucky. The director of Radio Shabelle shows us how many of his reporters have been killed. Our job is dangerous. 6 of our colleagues have been killed. I buried them with my own hands. The Committee to Protect Journalists says that over the last 2 decades, 62 reporters died doing their work in Somalia.
Somalia is among the nations with the highest number of journalists being killed in the world. The current government tries to improve the situation, but tangible results are yet to come, meaning that in the coming period, a lot of Somali journalists will continue to be killed.
Abdi Fattah Hersi is aware of this danger, but he wants to keep reporting the news to his community. I know that being a reporter here in Mogadishu is dangerous. I know that by doing this job I could end up dead. But I don't want to stop. I plan to continue. The threat posed by al-Shabaab militia shows no sign of letting up, so Somali reporters like Abdi Fattah Hersi will continue to work in extremely hazardous conditions.
And if you would like to find out more about the restrictions on the press around the world, you can check out the Media Freedom Navigator on our website. It's an interactive map giving you an overview of the state of press freedom in countries around the world. Just go to dw.com/media freedom.